So, Karen, welcome.
Thank you,
Lovely to
Sharon.
see your smiling face. I'm looking forward to this.
Mhm.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sharon Whiteman, and I work with Diana Hunter and Gary Knapp, who you've just seen, to bring the Australasian training to our region every week. We love doing this. We get inspired and inspire ourselves. For those of you that have been around for a while, we're partnering with Manitech to build a business, and for all different kinds of reasons we're here. Each of us is unique, but the thing we have in common is our love for this great technology, and Karen is definitely a champion and an ambassador for that. Now, if you haven't had the pleasure or the privilege of hearing from Karen, just want to give you a little bit about her background. She's a former nurse. She studied nutrition and supplementation for many, many years now. She's the mother of 4 children, and she has 6 grandchildren. She began her Manitech business in 2002 and reached the 6-figure income level in just over 2 years, earning many awards in the process. She was Associate of the Year in Australasia in 2008 and 2013, and Top International Business Builders of the Year in 2007 and again in 2013. She's been in the top 5 Associates of the Year, 2008, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, and 18. Congratulations, Karen. And she was the recipient of the Giving Spirit Award in Australasia in 2012. She's also a member of the $1 Million Club, a group comprising associates have earned over $1 million in their Manitech business. These awards represent the thousands of people that Karen has helped over the years, help them regain their health and help people who choose to build rewards for themselves financially as well. She has a warm, inviting, and knowledgeable style. She's an exceptional trainer. You'll be leaving this webinar today armed with how to feel really confident in giving the ultimate support to your customers. And also, this will be perfect for your new business partners. You're going to want them to watch this in learning how to care and give great customer service to their wellness clients. So Karen Dennis, welcome to Australasian Saturday Morning Training.
Thank you, Sharon and Gary and Diana. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yes. Let's go back just in brief to your story. I know you didn't set up to build an empire like this or develop this kind of a coaching and support business. How did that start?
Well, it started, I was looking after children with multiple disabilities, had been for some 5 years, ventilated children, brain damaged children, autistic children, all sorts of different things. And I used to look after them in home and also take them on, relief for the parents. We used to go on holidays and different things like that. And I was actually at the South Bank markets, and I had a girl in a wheelchair with red curly hair, which I have, and a man ran after me and thinking this was my daughter and said, oh, there's been this amazing discovery made. And he lent me a tape at the time of Dr. Omelchuk, and the rest is history. Basically, I heard that tape and thought, if this is half true, I want to know more. And I started going to meetings at Lee and Christine Eaton's place, and I was just so excited by the technology, Sharon, that you've mentioned. This discovery of glyconutrients is, in my opinion, well, I don't want to say the best thing since penicillin, because I'm not that much in favour of penicillin, but the best thing, and I'm not in favour of sliced bread either, so I'll have to think of something else, but it's just the most amazing discovery. And I was excited then, but I'm more excited 17 years later because of what I've seen happen in people's lives, dramatic things. So that's how it all started. And fortunately, we're forever grateful to Lee and Christine for their training. Ernie Simmons, the whole lot of people that did all that product training back then. And I know there's a bit of not an undercurrent, it's an overcurrent in Manitech in the last few years. You don't have to know about the products. And I understand why that's said, but personally I don't agree. I feel that grounding in the products and really understanding cellular communication, yes, you don't have to understand the deep science, but just understanding the basics. Like every week they drew a picture on the whiteboard of a cell with receptors coming off the cell. So you had that clear visual in your head of these receptors and what they do. So that was really what set me up, having those meetings weekly, and I took people to those meetings. I've still got people in my business that I took along. I met Robin Sully there. She'd just started on the products, and I remember being asked after I'd been going for some time and had enrolled a few people to do a talk on Plus. And this is very relevant to today because I was sick with nerves. I was not a public speaker. I was terrified of it, as most people are. They say more people are terrified of public speaking than deaf. I don't know if that's true, but and I had to talk on Plus. And I drank a whole glass of water just talking about Plus. Oh, I don't know how I ever did it. It was just a nightmare. But, I pushed on and did more and learned how to do that. And I thank them for that too. Christine was always a great one, pushing us to get your people up front and getting them talking about things so we can talk to other people confidently. So I don't think I've ever said that to you before, but I just sort of thought that was relevant today.
Yeah. I have great gratitude for Christine and Lee's work in our region. It's been very important, hasn't it? And it's amazing. I can also identify with pushing yourself to be more in scary ways, because it's like a mission, isn't it, what we have?
It is.
And that draws you, it either pushes you or draws you out to be more of who you are, because as I believe strongly, and I say almost every week, that there's people out there praying for what we have. And we need to be the best ambassadors and stewards of this technology in order to reach the people that need it.
Absolutely. And I do believe, having a basic understanding of our supplements and the food groups, and the Plus and the Omega being helpful for hormones, for instance. The Ambritose and the GI Pro being important for your immune system, and what that connection is. It's just a few basic facts we really need to learn. But, if we're going to develop customers, they have to trust us. The initial contact is all about trust in you. When people sign up, they don't believe the products are great. They actually trust you and what you've said. So if you're not confident, they probably won't sign up. So having that belief gives you an energy of confidence, and people trust you to give it a go. So I feel some product knowledge and understanding and commitment is absolutely necessary.
Perfect. So let's chunk it to a few steps. So if we're talking to brand new people, and even seasoned veterans, but the first step is that first engagement with someone who you've indicated they have a challenge that our technology might help them in overcoming. What do you recommend in being most successful in that initial engagement for either the veteran associate or one of our new business partners, or a customer referring anyone that wants to help somebody understand this technology? Sure.
Well, I think one of the basic things not to do is to launch into a big I know what you need. That is the most basic thing. I have built my business on the premise of listening and asking more questions. So to me, that's the number one step. If you're meeting someone who's got a challenge, talk to them, ask them about it. What's happening, how's it affected their lives. Just listen. And because when we listen to people, we build trust. It's the beginning of trust. You can have a half-hour conversation with someone and say nothing, basically, except listening to them, and they'll love you forever. It's just such an important thing to listen and learn. And then you've got a few options, as you said, depending whether you're a veteran or not. If you're a very brand new person, hopefully you have someone knowledgeable training you and guiding you. And in that instance, I would, at the appropriate time, and it may not be in that first conversation, you may be too nervous, you may just listen at that stage and not feel comfortable to say anything, and that's okay. Well, it's not okay if you don't see them again, but if it's someone you're going to see again, you could wait possibly till the next time. or you may send them an email and say, I've been thinking about you. That can be another thing you can do. I've been thinking about you and what you said. And here's an example. I do know something that may help you. I've been introduced to some great products, and the lady who's helped me would be prepared to explain how they work to you, something to that effect. So I'm a great believer in the third party, let me put it that way, in finding someone else to explain, because the strange thing is people trust someone they don't know who's the supposed expert rather than someone they do know. So I've built my business also on three-way calls, and my team has done that. They've organised three-way calls with me, and they introduce me as someone who's been with the company for some time, and that's how it works. So if you've got someone in your life or in your business above you who can do three-way calls for you, or even meet up with them, you know, it may be a face-to-face meeting. I found often men like face-to-face meetings, funnily enough. Seems to be more prevalent with men than with women, but not always. But if you can have that third-party person. So how you do that, if you're brand new, I really encourage you to play dumb. Because if you say to someone, well, you know, I know something that might help, they immediately, well, what is it? What is it? You know, they may start asking you lots of questions and you feel you have to say something. And my answer to that is don't. Say, look, this is, you know, what you've told me, you know, this is causing you a lot of distress, and it's really important that somebody more knowledgeable than me, I've not been doing this for very long and I can't explain it as well as you deserve. It's really important that someone with more knowledge than me talks to you. So that's the way I encourage people to play dumb if they're new. If it's a personal prospect and you're experienced, I certainly then wouldn't run into a lot of questions again. And I mean, this is something I've had to face. I'll say, look, we need to get together sometime. This is too important a subject just to, you know, do casually here and now. Let's organise a time to have a call on the phone or meet up for a coffee and I'll explain it. So does that answer that particular aspect?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
because really you want to be
opportunity to take them to a presentation. Well, that's ideal. You know, and that's how I started. So if you've got presentations being run in your area, well, that's wonderful. You can just invite people to come along to a wellness or health and wellness session. You know, that's wonderful.
Oh, fantastic. So I think the most important thing to get is that we don't, you know, even though both you and I have a nursing background, people don't need to have that level of knowledge. And what we're talking about is building the terrain of the body. And there's some basic principles. We're not practitioners. We're not recommending interventions. We're bringing the power back to the people basically in their health and wellness. Would you agree, Karen?
Absolutely. And look, I want to share something sort of really quite personal. I've had a bit of a revelation just lately. That in my early days with the slideshows and presentations I did, I used to talk about the declining health in the world, you know, immune system function going down, and also what's happened to the food, why that we're getting less nutrients. And I sort of stopped doing that. I think that probably happened when we had, you know, various compliance issues. And for some time I was just telling the good news. Well, I don't think that's enough. I think, sorry if I'm saying anything out of line here, Sharon, but I think we need to make people a little more aware, and this is my new project as we speak, a little more aware of what's happening. Because I know when I was nursing, when I was looking after the children, that, you know, I was in that sort of little world. And it wasn't till I got involved with Manatech and people had health challenges that I started to realise how broad spectrum they were. And that made me think, why? And as you said in my introduction, you know, I'd studied supplementation. My father was an organic farmer. I sort of realised I had a history of understanding this, but I was now starting to see the connection with what was happening with people's health. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to have some understanding of what's happened in the environment. You know, there's lots of lots of training on TV. You know, just the other night they were talking about how many drugs are in the water. You know, ice, cocaine, antibiotics, you know, they don't just disappear in the water if people are using tap water. So I just feel it's good to know some of these things and make people aware. And sometimes that's helpful for people to understand why things are going wrong in their body. You know, they've got this chemical load. I mean, here we have this great product, Ambritose Life, that has the ability to remove heavy metals and chemicals from our body, but people don't realise they've even got those things. So I don't think it's enough just to tell the good story. I think it's important to have some understanding and just make people aware of what's happened to the environment. Just simple things. It doesn't have to be really complicated. Things like, you know, food's sprayed with chemicals and fertilisers, it's picked green, it's shipped long distances, it's stored for long periods of time. You know, any expert looking into antioxidants, for instance, will tell you you've got to pick it off the tree and eat it within 20 minutes. Well, you know, this just isn't happening. And people really aren't aware. I believe there's never been a time where people are more conscious of health because of the terrible statistics that are happening out there. People are really trying, young mothers are really trying for their children. But we need to let them know, you know, why these things are happening and how much the food is degenerated. I just think these things are important, Sharon. So that's sort of part of my presentation. Before I get into the good news, I give them a bit of an overview of the bad news. And I train my team to do that also, so that they then see our products as an answer. You know, you can't always buy perfect food. Organic food's not always perfect, you know, because the chemicals are in the air. So even if people are, you know, thrashing their budget with all organic, they're still not guaranteed no chemicals. So I just feel that's an important aspect. I've gone off on tangents, as you know I do. I need you. That's why we have interviews, because I need you to bring me back.
No, that's perfect, because I want to set up some foundations first. And the other foundation I wanted to set up before we talk about specifics is I had this experience this week in a group of naturopaths on Facebook. So I'm in this group where that has all natural practitioners in it, and somebody brought up a question about Manatech, and they have a really strong bias in there against network marketing in that group. And I've spoken up about it previously, and just in a professional way, saying, you know, you're doing yourself a disservice to continue the bias about this, you know, like any business model, it can be done professionally or not. And then this week they're talking about Manatech, and they're talking about, well, it's just low dose, it's not practitioner level, not the same as the practitioner range. And all of us will be facing this kind of misinformation out there. And I think we have a niche that's separate. So I did my bit in there. I said, if you're not understanding, and I gave them completely generic, you know, look at glycoproteins on PubMed, look at glyconutritionals on WebMD. Go out there and search, because if you're denying this because of a distribution model, you're denying the best outcomes for your clients. Mm-hmm. So having said that, everybody here will be facing those kind of biases out there. And whether it's their naturopath or their energy medicine person or their doctor, you know, this message to me is vital in bringing the power back to the people and looking after their wellness. If they don't look after the terrain first, which is our niche, then nothing else is going to be as good as it could be. So Karen, what's your answer to people in regards to, well, my doctor doesn't know anything about it, or my naturopath said these are no good, or stop this? What's your advice there?
Well, I talk to a lot of people that have been to naturopaths. I talk to a lot of people that have taken multiple supplements, and they're now talking to me. And my question, they tell me what they're taking, and my first question is, well, is it working for you? And invariably the answer is no, because that's why they're talking to me. So, you know, I'm not dissing anything. I mean, Metagenics is one of the brands that is recommended, and, you know, they're mostly synthetic. This is a, you know, the registered treatment brand for a lot of naturopaths. So we have to just know these things. And I guess my emphasis, I keep talking to people about, is to get away from, in their minds, from the treatment mode. And I just keep harping, this is just food. This is not a treatment. You know, naturopaths are treating, and well, not denying that at all. But it is a treatment. Homeopathy is a form of treatment. Everything is actually treating something that's going on. We're in a totally different industry. We're in the industry of putting back in people's diets nutrients that are missing in their food. And when their body gets the things it needs, it knows how to adjust and repair. So I just encourage people, if they're going to a naturopath, going to anyone else, taking that, fine. I just fill in the gaps, because we're getting to this customer service thing. And the last thing we want to do is diss anything that anyone is doing. So if people are taking something, and I've just got someone I've just started recently in this situation, taking this from the naturopath and that from the naturopath, and that's fine. But I can confidently say, well, I know you haven't got glyconutrients. And I've explained what they are. I tell them this will make all your other things you're taking work better, because it's going to improve your cellular communication. And you'll be able to absorb those things even better. Antioxidants. I can talk about the fact that our AO is the best quality in the world, and I can send them evidence of that. So mostly people aren't taking antioxidants anyway. That's not that common, I find. And Plus is unique. No one has hormone food, which is what I will forever and always call Plus. Hormone food. You know, you've got these 87 hormones and you need to make them every day. And if you don't have the right food in your diet to make your hormones, they're out of balance. And all menopause is out of balance. All PMS is hormones out of balance. You know, these are the basics we need to know, and know we've got something really special with the Plus. So, you know, I just enrolled someone for someone else recently, and going to a naturopath, and we've got Ambrotose Plus and AO. She was on a probiotic, she was on an omega-3. So I just went with what I did. And again, I'm going to be continuing the calls. I'm jumping ahead. We haven't got to this, which is what I do. And I'm on the mission of building trust. That's what customer service is, building trust. And I know over time, when they finish the vitamin D they're taking, which is very common now, because it seems like 90% of the population is deficient in vitamin D. When they finish that, when they finish their omega-3, when they finish their vitamins they're taking, they'll change over. So I'm never sort of pushing. I'm always just going with the flow with them and pointing out what we have that's they're not taking, and building the relationship. Did I actually answer you?
Yes.
As far you did say about what to refer. If people, you know, want to look at something, and I've got lots of information I can give them and send, but I always talk about glycans. If you've got someone who wants to Google something, I always use that word, glycans, because there's heaps of really good stuff. So, you know, I still avoid the name Manatech and glyconutrients if possible, because there's incredible videos about glycans. I mean, if you watch them, they're so highbrow, a lot of them, that people get a bit tired very quickly. But, you know, I always go that way. And, you know, it's already out. They're trying to make vaccines with glyconutrients. So, you know, the science world's been trying to do that.
So I think the takeaway point from this section is to know that you're most likely not going to convince a naturopath or a medical professional that's not open.
No.
But what we have doesn't interfere with what they do. And we're talking about the core products here, so there are some exceptions with our specialist products. But we make them look better. You know, for instance, in the last fortnight, my mother-in-law had an issue with her brain that caused her not to be able to communicate. And you know, we were within 24 hours of that incident. We're in the hospital giving her Ambrotose and Manipul every 2 hours. And then we just sat back and watched. We didn't ask permission because she was on a full diet. So this is just a dietary lift. We just made sure that she got the best nutrition that she could every 2 hours, waking hours. She got those products. And then we just sat back and watched the doctors doubt their diagnosis and redo scans and go, well, there's something not right here. And they multiple times had to relook at what was doing, because this patient responded and recovered in ways they hadn't seen before. So they thought, oh, I've made a mistake. And this is our niche in the critical time. Our niche is to help any other intervention that's necessary on a medical level to even be better. So Karen, I want to really get to your niche areas and some of the things you...
Well, can I just say a bit more to what you just said? Certainly. I think what we just have to accept and stop trying to do is convince other modalities. Dr. Nugent said this 100 years ago. No. When I was there. If you're going to try and enrol doctors, just forget it, really. That, like what happened with you, they think it's a misdiagnosis when people get better. And I just think it's better to say as little as possible. They see things happen, they're amazed, but they don't want to know anymore. And that I'm speaking from 17 years experience of people trying to get their doctor to acknowledge what's happened. And I could some very dramatic stories just like yours, Sharon.
Yeah.
I'm delighted about, by the way. And so excited, because this is what got us all so excited in the beginning, just these incredible things and what incredible products we have. And as far as naturopaths, same thing. Just go with the flow. They're so important, naturopaths. At least they're a known source of health that people are going to that's not drugs. So, that's great. And let's acknowledge how great they are. But, just go with the flow. And I don't try and convince those people. I have a dietitian in my business and, it's going to be hard for her. She's fascinated. She's taking the products. She's trying them out. But, she has to change some thinking to the fact that, things are missing in the food. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And so, that's our niche. And that's where, again, this patient had all the power. She made the choices. She's been on the products for 18 years anyway. And she just wanted more and more eyes lit up and more. And, she could tell that was the thing that was making the big difference. And so that's the power that we have. And that's also the calling why we need to be the best we can be at this. So, Karen, and before we move on to how you walk people through their starting on the product and making decisions on products and how you support them, there's a couple questions in regards to how are Manatech products so clean if our environment's so not clean anymore?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's where the research and development and the whole lab comes into it. Everything is tested when it comes into the lab. If it's not suitable, it's discarded. It's actually tested. And the best example I can think of, which isn't recent, but I know it's still like this, is when they were first doing the research on AO. They spent 5 years researching AO, and there's 5 different antioxidants in that, and one of them is green tea. And they ordered in this shipment of green tea to get the antioxidant from green tea. I'm sure a lot of people on here drink green tea thinking it's a good antioxidant. And when it came in, they tested it, and there was absolutely 0 antioxidant levels in the green tea, which they then contacted the supplier, and the supplier said, oh, if we knew you were going to test it, we would have sent it differently. So they did, and they sent it freeze-dried and packed in ice because plants lose their goodness so quickly. So the company, and it's things like that just give me so much trust in Manatech. Everything is monitored, and that's why it is so clean. Watching the movie of how they do the aloe vera make the manipole in Costa Rica, I really recommend people do that to build your faith, because again, this is part of your confidence. I had a new associate ask me that the other day, why do you trust them? It was a good question.
It's a great question.
It's a great question. And I said, I've been to the labs multiple times. I've met the doctors. I know how they operate. The AO is one example. Costa Rica, I've been at Manifest when the guys running the Costa Rica farm are there, and the passion and the dedication they have says it all. So, you know, and in, you know what, I've never had anyone have an allergic reaction. Nothing's ever happened in my 17 years, you know. People are guided properly, they always do well. You know, the founder of Manitech used to always say the only reason people don't get results is they don't take enough and for long enough for whatever's going on for them. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope that answers, doesn't it?
Yeah, perfect. And I think what we're talking about here is something that we call posture. And, you know, you can't get that instantly. That's why you reach out to either your coach or someone, you know, a running partner in your business, and or third-party things like this. And there's archives and archives of education. And I think the most important thing, if someone's, you know, if they're distrusting, they're wanting to understand. If they're talking to you like that, they want you to allay their concerns. Yes. And so hearing stuff like this, other people's stories, and you do have to give them the responsibility for taking some action into researching as well. You know, sometimes it's just a push away, lots of questions at that time. But anyway, that's a whole other call. But today I really want to get into, Karen, now. So you've got a brand new person and they've got some imbalances in their health and they want to improve them. Lay out for us what you recommend in moving that forward. Product choices, community, number of times, length of time that you're connecting with them. What's your system?
Okay. Well, to start with, as I've mentioned already listening, so if I'm doing the call with the person, when they're connected with me, whether it's face-to-face or on the phone or on the computer, on Zoom, whatever it may be, people are expecting probably to be sold something. They're expecting to be talked at, and that's not what I do. So once I'm introduced, it's very important in a referral situation that you edify the person that you're introducing your prospect to, whether it's business or product, whatever reason you're doing it. Edifying that person, saying I've been with the company for a long time and this is what I do, and you know, I help people get the results they're looking for and very experienced, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so that's the first part. So they come on expecting this expert, so-called, to do all the talking. Well, that's the first thing I don't do, because I want to listen to them and I want to feel who they are and what they know and what they believe, how much faith maybe they have in the medical world. That's an important thing to understand, because I don't want to diss that either. So it's just asking them what's going on. And from what they tell me, it's fairly easy. It's not really complicated, and this isn't nursing stuff. If they're getting colds and flu and things all the time, you know, obviously their immune system's not strong. So that's where Ambrito's Life is going to be the answer. If they can't sleep and they have no energy and they're moody and cranky, and well, obviously their hormones are an issue too. So once they start telling me all the things that are happening, and I ask questions, even when they've stopped talking, I'll ask. If they haven't mentioned sleep, I'll say, well, how is your sleep? You know, how's your energy? How's your hair? How's your skin? How's your nails? All these little things. And the reason you want to know these things is because these may be the little things that change in the first few weeks that you can then say, well, see, because sometimes people will say, oh, I'm not noticing anything. And I'll say, and my mother did this, and so I learnt this right from the beginning. I'd say, how are you feeling, Mum? Oh, just the same. Nothing's happened. And then I would say, well, are you sleeping any better? Oh, yes, I am actually. And there'd be little things you could ask. So you need to have a bit of a note, you know, a written down list of just where they're at, plus you're getting the feel for them. You know, they may be someone, for instance, who buys organic food all the time, doesn't eat any carbs. You know, you need to know how serious they are and where they're at, because you don't want to insult their intelligence by starting to tell them, you know, all these things, when you just need to know what they know to sort of get a feel for them and connect with them. And that's my biggest skill. And I don't mean that to sound painful, but that's something we need to develop. If we're going to look after people and have customers for life, they need to feel listened to and understood, their beliefs honoured. People do things that I don't agree with. You know, they might be eating things I don't agree with, but I don't, oh, that's no good. You know, I don't do that. So I need to just get to know them on that first call. There's someone on the end of the phone who I've never met, maybe. So, and then I can just explain, well, obviously your immune system's, you know, not working so well, and that's what, you know, we specialise in. And I explain a very small amount about how the immune system works. You know, that our immune system basically protects us and keeps us clean on the inside. We wash on the outside, but we need to keep clean on the inside, because chemicals and toxins can build up in our body because they're in the air, they're everywhere. I've already may have talked a bit about that. And our immune system has to be able to communicate properly, and I'll explain the basics of how the glyconutrients build the tentacles that our cells are able to connect with and talk. So very basic, you know, very basic language I use. Then I'd go on to GI Pro after that, because that's a critical part of the immune system, because 70% of your immune system is set up in the gut. So that would be my second subject. I usually always start with immune system, because everyone needs the cellular communication, even if it's a glaring hormonal thing. Everyone needs the cellular communication. And then I go on to the hormones, something people have never ever known, that, you know, they've got 87 or 86 hormones. Men and women have got the same ones, and you've just got to make them every day. So I keep it very simple language. And if you don't have the right things, I said, it's like making a cake. If you haven't got all the ingredients, the cake doesn't turn out. And this is why people's hormones, you know, they're not sleeping, they've got low energy, their digestion is affected by their hormones, their moods, their happiness, their memory. The list goes on. You know, so, yeah.
And so do you offer them, so that once you get the education underway and how some of this may be due to malnutrition, and that this is our area, that we lift that nutritional level, do you give them, like, you know, a small, medium, and large option, or how do you ascertain recommendations that fit with their budget and, you know, their belief systems?
Okay. Well, firstly, that's been part of the listening. I'm getting a feel for their budget. Often people will drop things about that because they're a bit scared.
Yep.
You know, like I'm a single mum, or I'm on a pension, or I'm this, or I'm that. So if I've got that message, or maybe the person who's referring them to me already told me that because they know that. So I probably would only talk about a couple of products. Sometimes I'll only talk about Ambritose and GI Pro and Plus. Sometimes I'll add Omega. I find these days often I don't even get to AO and Catalyst. But again, I play it by ear, Sharon. So I don't go too far. You know, my top four, and this is just me personally, for people to feel something, because we're establishing a customer for life, so they don't have to get everything straight away. So the Ambritose and Plus are my big focus, because they come as a package too, and they're the most important. But sometimes it's just Plus. Sometimes it'll happen they can just manage Plus. So I play it by ear, but I encourage Ambritose and Plus because they come together. So at the end, what tends to happen, whatever I've talked about, they'll say, well, how much does, I say, or if they don't ask me how much it is, I ask them, do you want to know? You know, I ask them, do you want to know how much they cost? Sometimes they've been too scared to ask. Yes. So I tell them how much the Ambritose is. I tell them how much the Plus is. These are wholesale prices. I say that. I tell them how much the GI Pro is and the Omega, whatever it is we've talked about. I tell them the exact prices. And I also say, but they have a really great deal with the Ambritose and Plus, the Ambrotose Life and Plus, that you can buy those two together, and it's only $215, which saves you about $30 or $40. So, and then I stopped talking, and I'm quiet. I don't keep rabbiting on because people are then thinking. And the worst thing you can do is keep on talking because they've just heard these figures, they've heard why they need them, and they're computing in their head how their budget will go and what they can manage. So I just be quiet. This is really hard for people to do. And when I'm doing three-way, sometimes my associates are nearly wetting themselves because it's so quiet, because they're under strict instructions not to speak, because it's just me and the new person building the relationship here. So I wait. And you'd be surprised. I did a new customer for myself, a referral the other day, and they bought Ambrotose and Plus and GI Pro and Omega and Catalyst. Bought all those. So I just wait and let them decide, and then they tell me. So then the next step is, and during this time, which I didn't mention, is that before we got to the money, and I should go back to this, I have also told them, and this is my key thing, that part of this is you're going to be guided in what to take. You know, that's what I do. That's my job, I tell them. My job is to make sure you get the results you're looking for, and you're going to be guided. And I'll need to speak to you once a week for a period of time, just to guide you in what to take. We'll start you off slowly, and I'll be monitoring you and how you're going. So I said, I say that you don't have to pay for that. You know, all you have to pay for is your products, because they may be thinking, oh, you know. A consultant
now, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually I say that, and say this is not I use very basic language, as you can probably believe. I say this is not just a hit and miss thing. It's not just, you know, here you go, good luck, I hope, which is what happens with drugs, what happens with a pharmacy, what happens with most things. It's here you go, follow the label, and we hope you do okay. And I say it's not like that. So this is, and I'm always adding to their belief in the product by saying then this is, you know, this is concentrated nutrition. It's going to help your body start to repair. You're going to be making healthier cells. So it's important we just start gradually and see how toxic you are. Sometimes I say that. And just go gradually. I also let them know some of the things that may happen. No, I don't usually do that on the first call. But if they ask me, I tell them. Say, well, are there any side effects? People may ask you that question. And I say, well, yes, you may. No, I say no. But I said, you may get a dull headache. You know, if your body's got a few toxins, you've taken medication in the past or been exposed to chemicals, you may have a dull headache. So that's another reason I like to talk to you, and we start you gradually. So it's this constant reassurance. If anyone's done their first aid certificate, you know, that's the number one rule. Keep reassuring the patient, you know, so I'm constantly reassuring that that's why I'll be guiding you. And they say, can't I just take what's on the label? No, I don't recommend you do that, because, you know, it may be too much for you to start with. Your immune system might start cleaning up, and you might have, you know, a stronger headache. The last thing I want people to do is take what's on the label, bang, and if they've got 4 or 5 products, because they can have quite a strong clean up. I don't think I'm supposed to use the word detox, sorry, Sharon. But everyone else can use it but us, but never mind.
It's like a process of, you know, your body gets all these nutrients. It goes, whoopee, I can do what I've not been able to do. So that sort of what you might say might be a bit of a cleansing response is actually good news. It's a happy dance time, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I actually do have a couple of great articles, not from Manatech, that were written about this, how when you know, improve your nutrition, you can have a cleansing response. You can even revisit old symptoms. I've had 3 significant people in my years, for instance, who've had broken bones, who after a period of time had the pain come back. One lady had 3 ribs broken by a horse kicking her 20 years prior. And one day she woke up in abject agony in those ribs after being on our products for some 10 months. And she went to the doctor, she had x-rays, she went to everyone and they all said there's nothing wrong. And I learnt through connecting with the doctors with Manatech and education over time that her bones had, yes, they'd knit together when it happened, but they were now doing a deeper cellular repair and she revisited the pain. So these are things we need to know. If people have pain for any reason when they're taking our products, they could think it's bad. So we need to know these things, that can happen. And that's why perhaps sending an article, there's another great one called Improving Health Through Nutrition. I love to send that just to help people understand the time factor. That's another thing. We need to understand people are, in the mode, they're brainwashed to expect quick results. They take a Panadol, their headache's gone in half an hour. That's the way people's thinking is. So understanding this time factor, which is
like
why...
a reprogramming, isn't it?
It's a reprogramming, absolutely a reprogramming, which is why I believe you need the follow-up calls because you need to reassure them. In that week between the first and the second call, they're watching things on TV, they're seeing this is happening there. Lots of doubts can start to come in. So we need to reassure them of the time factor. And of course, people are always anxious to see something happening, which is why having told them that they may get a bit of a dull headache is a great thing to tell them. Because then if they do, they think, oh, great, something's happening. So instead of think, oh, no, I've got a headache, they think, oh, great, this is working.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I tell them with hormones, if you may have a bit of a hormonal wobble, men and women. And that's a very scientific term I invented. That's mine, patented, hormonal wobble. And it basically means, you might feel, and I tell them, you might feel a bit cranky, you might be irritable, you might be moody. So warn your husband or your wife that you might be a bit off. And it's just because your hormones are building. And again, I have a chance to repeat because the plus and omega are helping to build your hormone levels and your body's getting them back into balance. And while they're getting back into balance, you may feel a bit wobbly, So another thing that may happen as people's immune systems improve, they may have some periods of lethargy. Well, I've started taking these products to feel better, and now all I want to do is sleep. So that's fantastic, but it's much more powerful if you tell them it may happen than you try and explain it after it has happened. So these are just a few little things in setting people up for success. Them expecting nails often improve quickly, fingernails grow a bit faster. So, nothing may have happened, but their fingernails have changed. So they, their belief level is starting to come up.
Excellent. We'll get messages for those articles. Are you okay if I put them up when I put up your call into the archive?
Sure. Have you got those articles?
No. Could you, if you email them to me, I'll make a link for them and they can just get them from YouTube.
Happy to.
Excellent. Thank you. And, there's starting to people wanting to do the right thing by people and knowing what's best for certain type of health issues, headaches or migraines or, aches and pains or, and really we can't we're not health professionals. So how do you help someone make a decision what priority nutrients depending on what their clinical picture is like?
All right. Well, I don't know if I can say these things. Well, let's get someone who gets migraines. What I say, correct me if I can't say this, Sharon, but what I say is in my experience, 90% plus of migraines are related to hormones. That has been my honest experience. So, the plus and the omega, building your hormone levels, will certainly help with migraines. And, you know, I just say what I found.
And cleansing.
Yeah, and
cleansing to look at their career history, Karen.
Yeah. Sorry?
To look at their career history. They've been working, you know, hairdressers, people working in chemicals, mechanics.
Exactly. And I remind them, and this is what happens on these ongoing calls too, I remind them of the stress they're under. I remind them, you know, women are doing incredible things these days, you know, rushing around with kids, working, you know, coming home, cleaning the house, cooking the food. Maybe they've got a great husband who does it. And maybe they've got a situation where both partners, you know, do equal things, but there's still a lot of stress. You know, there's financial things going on for people, there's repairs, there's all sorts of stuff. So I keep reminding of those things and reminding them that, you know, I mean, something I just learnt recently is when you're under a lot of stress, you pump a lot of cortisol, which most people have some awareness of. And cortisol, I didn't realise, is an immune suppressant. So while it helps deal with the inflammation of stress, it also suppresses your immune system. So you don't have to learn all these things, but you just pick up snippets, you know. And guys, I didn't know all this when I started. You know, I just picked up little things as I went along and listened to people. I've learned a lot just from guiding people. You know, back in my very early days when I had a lady that I got onto the Plus, this is when I invented my hormonal wobbles comment. She rang me up and said, I can't stop crying and nothing's wrong, which was really funny. But, you know, it was just her hormones and she was just very emotional. So that can be something too with those hormonal wobbles. People can be watching something on TV that wouldn't make them cry and they start crying. So the more little things like that that give people confidence that, you know, things are changing in those early days are really great, you know. And I'll often tell people that, you see. I use things that have happened to tell people. I tell stories. That's another really big thing I do, is tell stories.
Yeah, and you know, if you're new and you don't have a repertoire of stories yet, there's thousands of calls.
Exactly.
You know, any of the nutritional glycan ones that Diana's done are brilliant. Any Dr. Nugent one is brilliant because he can say things legally that we probably get mixed up sometimes. So we know Dr. Nugent's always right. And he can educate them, you know, and so you should be the go-between for those experts, whether it's a live expert in this kind of situation or, you know, someone that's on a video or a recording. Karen, as a couple of minor logistical questions, for people who are experiencing some cleansing experiences, do you recommend extra water or anything else?
Absolutely, yes. And I'm very potent about not drinking tap water, you know. I mean, especially if they're buying GI Pro Balance. Say, well, you've got chlorine in tap water, which is there to kill bacteria and it kills your good bacteria. So if you're paying for probiotics, it seems a bit daft to be drinking. So I'm really down on tap water. And I say just drink more water if you get a headache. And if at all possible, don't take any painkillers, you know. It's and again, I'll say this is why we start off slow, you know. And sometimes people do have to start. I've had people that sometimes have severe allergies, I don't know if I can say that, digestive issues, and I might have started them. If they do that, I start very slowly, like maybe only a quarter of a teaspoon of Ambritose twice a day, quarter of a teaspoon, but I've even had people who can't cope with that. So this is a really important point because it doesn't mean that they're allergic to Ambritose and they can't take it. It just means, okay, stop. What I want you to do is lick your finger and dip it in the Ambritose and lick it off your finger once a day. And I've done this there's more and more people coming that have, you know, really not so good these days.
Over the edge, yeah. So
I have one lady, a 75-year-old lady in Sydney, and this I had to do with her. We had to go backwards, have one lick a day, and then she was okay. So about a week later, we went to 2 licks a day, one at night, one in the morning. She now takes 3 teaspoons a day. So it just took time for repair, and she's so well. And the doctors can't understand. She's taking a lot of plus, why her bone density is improving, why this is happening. So many things are so good. So,
yeah. We're sort of educated by the Western medicine system. Like, not there's a lot of good individuals in that system, but the system itself is built to perpetuate itself, isn't it? So sometime we have to stand up and take stock. And especially with Manatech, it's so safe and so essential as a foundational nutrient. It's malpractice to not, for ourselves. It's personal malpractice, personal wellness malpractice if we don't lift our terrain in order to receive the best results of any other intervention that we need.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And how often do you make these calls, Karen?
Well, I used to do it after only 3 days, the first one, but I'm just too busy to do that now. So I set it up at once a week. And that may go on. It depends on the person. So the first instruction is when your products arrive, let your enroller or me, if I'm the enroller, let us know by text that it's arrived. Don't take anything. You have to, you'll get the occasional person who forgets that, but I'm keeping a check on when it was shipped, and I've got a rough idea when it arrives. So, you can always tell if they don't contact you that they've forgotten to do that. Yeah. But usually people will let you know. We organise a call, and then I start them. And these days I start people lower than I used to. Usually half a teaspoon of ambrotos twice a day, 2+, usually, maybe 1, depending on the history. If they've got very severe hormonal issues, I may only start them on 1+. The thing they need the most of, I have to start slowly because they're so out of whack. GI Pro and maybe 1 Omega. So I just start gradually. It's always better to err on the side of caution, but you also want to get a bit of a result. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. You don't want to be too low, but you don't want to be too high. So start conservatively, and we talk. I again repeat a few things. I remind them they may get a slight headache. They may have a hormonal wobble. Remind them of a couple of things. This second call, I've reassured them on the first call it won't be as long as this one, because that's another thing they're thinking, oh my God, I have to be on this call for such a long time. So look, it'll only be about 10 minutes. So everything's about reassurance. So I repeat that, tell them what to do, when to take it, and we make an appointment. That's my big thing. I don't take random calls, I make appointments. People are used to making appointments. That's a paradigm we should slip into. I hate random calls personally. I could have been cranky. I could be sitting on the toilet, any number of things. I don't want random calls. So we make an appointment, and we talk again in a week. And I usually keep up weekly for quite a while. Depending on the condition, then we may get to the point then of stretching to 2 weeks. And for a lot of people, we end up with once a month. Okay, and a lot of the time, the person who's looking after them can then take over and I don't have to be involved. So it really depends on the situation. If it's my person, maybe a long time. I have some people I've been talking to once a month for years. Yeah. I have people who used to ring the company to change their orders that I've actually taken them back over and said, look, you don't need to do that. I'm happy to adjust your order for you. And this is not what network marketing teaches. Network marketing teaches, let them do it yourself as quickly as possible so you don't have to. Well, I don't agree with that. Mm. If people have to go in the early days and adjust their own orders, a whole heap of things happen. Firstly, they forget, and then their order runs and they get the same thing and they're cranky. Last thing you want. Secondly, they look at the amount when they go in to get and think, oh my goodness, that's too much. I'll have to cut something off. Whereas if you're talking to them every month at least about their order and how they're feeling, don't always be just about the order. Always start off with how they are. You can, again, if they say, oh, I don't think I can manage that, you can look at a bundle, you can look at You can tell them how important it is and remind them why they need to keep this going. If they're an associate, why they need to keep it at 150 PV so they get paid. Remind them of their loyalty. Remember, you're earning, if it's a customer, you're getting 10% of this back. I have all sorts of things that I, encourage people to keep going. And also talk about new products. Just to give you one example, Sharon, because we're talking about customers for life. There's a lady in my business who enrolled, I think, about 14 years ago, and she wasn't enrolled by me. I was involved in the calls way back at the beginning. She had 2 very serious health challenges, and the people above her, between her and me, disappeared. And so she was ringing the company for years. And they came out here in their mobile home one day to Nanango, and they rang me and said, we thought we might drop in because they knew I lived at Nanango. Oh, that'd be great. So they came to visit, came for morning tea, and she was telling me. And at that stage, they were spending about $500 a month on the products. Anyway, I said, well, look, you don't have to keep ringing. I'm happy to, give you a ring once a month, see what you need, offer any advice and help. And they were glad about that. So that's what started happening about 8 years ago. This started. They now spend between $1,100 and $1,200 every month. She's just had incredible results. The doctors can't understand why her blood work is so good. And she's older than me. And it's just a great story. So they're spending more than they used to spend. Customer for life, very happy. And I have to make a phone call once a month. Do I mind? No, I don't, So customer service, that's what, looking after people and knowing there's that confident person who knows what she's talking about, can handle any sort of drama. They have had so many dramas with orders not arriving. And do I say ring the company? No, I do that. I sort it out. That's part of customer service. The company sometimes get told, ring the courier. No, I'll do that. We'll sort it out. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off on tangents a bit again.
No, not at all. There's real gems in this, as Dinah's commenting. Do you have a wellness checklist? Because there's a concept, I'm just going to fit a few things in here over time, but there's a concept of the new normal, isn't there? Where, you have this recovery and then you think, why am I taking this stuff? I feel fine. And so part of our education process in this ongoing support is to help people understand that, there's still things happening under the surface that you may not know. Do you bring that up and work with people on that?
I encourage people to journal, yes. I don't have a list. Some of my associates do. The very analytical, organised ones have a list they send to their clients. Yeah. That's not me. I have the list of all the notes I've taken, and as I talk each week, I make further notes on that. So I have my own list. But I note down, improvements because I'm asking questions. But I really encourage people to journal. I say I had a lot of things happen to me. I didn't think I had anything wrong. I got on the products to start other people, and I had some quite dramatic things happen. And I'm so regretful that I didn't write down how long I'd been on the products, what I was taking and when this happened, because it's now like a vague memory. And I said it'll be really helpful to you if you do that. Maybe write down how you're feeling, whether it's a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, how your hair is, how your bowels are. Maybe you're only, some people are only going once a week. They think that's maybe not okay, very not okay. So, there's a whole lot of things. Some people will do that, and it's very productive when they do. Some people are just not going to do that because they just don't do that. So I do it, and then I can be telling them. And sometimes people might be, 2 months down the track. I say, I don't know that I've really noticed anything. And I've written down here all the things that have happened. But remember you said you were waking up 3 and 4 times a night and now you're sleeping through the night? Oh, that's right. Or remember your nails were all, ridgy and now they're not, or remember your hair was falling out and now it's not, or whatever.
Yeah.
So if they don't journal them, it's better if they do it themselves, and I do encourage people to do it. So they can see, because then when they are doubting down the track too, or when someone asks them, you know, I say, look, you may end up referring people and they'll ask you what you've noticed, you know, and how quick. So it'll be very valuable if you document it yourself. So does that answer that?
Yep. And a couple just logistical things. Do you use a digital record of your clients, or like on a online, or you do paper? And if you use paper, what do you do when you travel?
Paper. Paper.
Just in a folder on your desk.
I do it all on paper, and I use a paper diary. The only people who miss phone calls with me sometimes are those that have them in their phone, the appointment. I'm very much a paper person, but that's because I'm older.
Well, speaking of older, and in your calls, do you use Zoom or phone or what?
Oh, well, yes. I think I'm very technological. I can make PowerPoints, and I use Zoom. I use Zoom for my team calls. I've got associates overseas now, and New Zealand, Perth, America. So Zoom is just wonderful. I use that for my training calls, and I can record them. I can do presentations on Zoom. I love Zoom. I think it's the most wonderful thing, and I love my phone. And I've recently I've just put the Manatech app back on. I haven't had it for some time. Initially, I didn't think it was worth it. Now I do. Thanks to Judy Abbott. She, at a recent leaders meeting, she said it's wonderful, so I'm back. I have that. And another really great thing for those more long-term people, and I have to thank James Hannon for this tip, because he gave me this tip years ago, is I have 2 secret Facebook groups, one for my business builders and one for customers and prospects even. It's my health and wellness group that any of my associates can invite their customers onto, and we post articles about our products, but just general health products, general health articles, and anyone can post on there as well, except I have to approve it, make sure it's kosher. And then we have our business group. So that's been huge, because I really have found the technology is moving, and my emails are getting less and less. Everything's sort of tending to happen on Facebook as much as, you mightn't like it or disagree with it. It's just the way things are going. So.
Absolutely agree, Karen. And what's in your heart to leave people with today? Like, the mission is, what's our mission?
Well, your story has just re-inspired me. Mother-in-law, that's just, I could cry. I nearly did when you told that story on our leaders call the other day. That's what it's about. We have something just so unique, and it's incumbent upon us, I believe, to become as knowledgeable as we can, not scientific. I'm pushing my team now. Do your research. Find out what the health statistics are. Find things out. And I have people in my business say, I'm not a researcher. Neither am I. But I'm pushing myself, Google's there. You can find out so much. And if nothing else, it'll boost your confidence. Read your articles. Listen to your old CDs if you've still got them. We are so important. What we know and what we have is so important. I better just leave it. It's so important.
Karen, God bless you.
My pleasure, Sharon.
Yes. Thank you so very much. Thank you for everybody. Great. I really appreciate your participation and being here. Make sure you pass this on. Make sure you like our page, just Australasian Connect, and send us a message there so we can communicate better and better. And next week we have a business focus call with James Hannon. And Karen, I'll be chasing you for another call, because this makes such a big difference. Thank you.
My pleasure, Sharon.
Thanks, Karen. You're amazing.
Bye for now, everyone. Good luck.
Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.